Thank you. Awesome. Good evening. The Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of New Canaan will come to order on February 3rd, 2025 at 7:05 PM. When we call your case, we ask that each presenter come up to the lectern, or if you're on Zoom, we'll activate you to speak. Identify yourself and the property in question, state the request of the board, and identify the hardship and the reasons for the request. Remember, the hardship cannot be financial in nature. It runs with the land and is peculiar to your property. The board will then ask questions of you, after which you will sit down and we will give those present a chance to speak. You will then be given an opportunity to answer any questions or sum up your request. We record the meeting, so everyone must speak into the microphone and state their name. The board will then go into business session, discuss, and make a decision. There are 5 voting members on the board and takes 4 positive votes to be granted a variance. We have 1 member, Jessica Carden, who is on Zoom, so we're going to start taking attendance with you, Jessica.
Carden present.
Dell present.
Tastian present.
Carity present.
Snyder present.
Book present.
Okay. The first matter on the agenda tonight is 106 Logan Road. This was continued. Zoning variance upon the application of Brian Carey, Land Tech authorized agent William S. Timlin and Heather Choi, owners for variance of section 3.5.e to allow a reduction of the required 50-foot setback to 35.2 feet. The proposed variance would allow the construction of a 2-story addition over the existing footprint of a stone patio in the 4-acre zone at 106 Logan Road, map 28, block 31, lot 90. Do you have the mailing receipts in this time? Thank you. Can the applicant's engineer from Atlantic, I can't read your name on the board, that's Brian Carey,
Brian Carey, yes.
board. And then why don't you present your presentation?
Yep, thank you for having me. Good evening. My name is Brian Carey. I'm a professional wetland scientist and director of environmental services with Land Tech, who is a civil and environmental engineering firm located in Westport, Connecticut. I'm here on behalf of the property owners, Mr. William Timlin and Mrs. Heather Chow. We have been retained by the property owners to assist them in the development of a modest residential addition to their property, so that they can expand the benefit of having a small den and an office on the property. If I could share my screen just for a moment, I can show you the layout of the property. So as you said, we're here today to request a variance from section 3.5.e.2 of the New Canaan zoning regulations to allow the applicant to build a modest addition, 2-story addition that will require a variance from the 50-foot setback down to 35.2 feet. As you can see on the attached site plan that was developed as part of this application and hopefully future applications, we are looking to enclose the stone patio with a new structure. That being said, early on when we started working on this project, we did realize that there was a problem with the setback. If you can tell, the lot is encumbered with a pretty substantial wetland area associated with this pond, wetland soils, and the flood zone A, making it almost impossible to really develop anything in this area. We have looked at other similar proposals to develop the property without asking for a hardship, but due to the existing architectural components of the house, it makes it almost impossible. Basically, we're saying that since this area already exists, it really does not make a whole lot of sense to try to put an addition on another area of the house because it doesn't work architecturally, and we still would need relief from the side setback if we were to do that. Other than the request for this variance, side setback variance, the property is in full compliance with the zoning requirements. I did put a project narrative into the record, basically explaining our justification for hardship, which again is based on the physical characteristics of the property. If you read the memo that was provided from staff, you can see that there was a previous variance granted for the property associated with the setback for the driveway. Again, the property is the way the property was developed and the shape of the property, the way the house was situated makes it almost nearly impossible to expand the house without going into the rear or side setback. We did talk to all the neighbors. I was able to submit one letter from the neighbor, one of the adjacent neighbors, basically in support of the project. I don't believe there were any other letters submitted in opposition to the project. Again, this is just a real modest addition to the existing structure. Case law does support the legal precedent for this type of relief based on the physical restraints that are present on the property. Again, those being wetlands and the flood zone. So that being said, you know, we appreciate you hearing our case. I can answer any questions regarding the project and our appeal for this hardship.
Jessica, do you have any questions to start? Since you're on Zoom.
No, I mean, I looked at the property. I can understand the issues with the water and the flood zone, you know, and it is a challenging lot. And they actually have quite a bit of land. So it's not, you know, obviously there's not a variance request for coverage. So, you know, there seems to be quite a few challenges here.
Is Luke Tashin speaking. Is this house consistent with the houses around it in scope? Looked like on the easterly side, there was a pretty large house. Or how does the proposed project compare in the
This-
neighborhood?
Can you, if I could share my screen again, sorry. This house is actually somewhat smaller than the adjacent houses. If you look at the subdivision that this is part of, most of these houses have very unique lots. This is conforming with the circle. But if you can see, I mean, some of these lots are very challenging in the way that they were formed. There really is no to the south. The only neighbors that would be, you know, kind of impacted from a view shed point. I mean, it's between the woods. This is probably the largest house in the neighborhood. We did reach out to all the neighbors. As far as the mailings are concerned, I know the homeowner did talk to several of them to get signatures on a letter that we have submitted. But yeah, again, just the dimensions of the lot and the way the lot was sited make it kind of impossible to meet the side yard setbacks for any type of addition. The one thing too that I should note is that this is the garage. So you wouldn't be able to put an addition on here that would meet what they're looking to do because of the architectural components of the house. It would be very kind of funky. Not that that's a technical term, but it would be challenging to do. This was really kind of the best case scenario. You know, working with what we have. Again, the foundation will just cover the existing stone patio, which is compliant under the existing zoning regulations. So we were trying to minimize the amount of impact to the setback. The other thing to note is this will require an application submission to the Inland Wetlands Agency and also the New Canaan Health Department, which we're working on right now.
And you can't build on the southeasterly corner because of that setback?
Yeah, and also the existing septic is here.
Or it says
So there-
AC on your plan, that's septic or,
Yeah, so there's construction fencing around. This is the existing septic tank, and then it's pumped up over here. So
can
we
you
would
go,
have-
I can't see it on your screen. Can you show where the septic is again?
yeah, so the existing septic tank is right here,
Okay,
and then this is the leaching system in here.
on the slope.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Rich Carrot. Yeah, I did visit also. I mean, oh, sorry. Yeah, Rich Carrot. Yeah, I did visit the site. Yeah, I think the lot, does have issues. To me, I don't really have any issue with this. I know during our seminar, I think we have to look at this a little bit more carefully, right? I remember that, because, or else I would have said that it's, pretty black and white, but, between the flood areas, the wetlands, the septic, there's really no other place they could put the addition. The question is, do they need the addition?
That's the question I have. This isn't necessary. Make reasonable use of it. I mean, this house is smaller than all the houses around it.
Yeah,
I don't think you'd look at it and say this is unreasonable compared to neighboring houses.
yeah. Yeah, I ordinarily,
I
this would
don't
have
know, that
been
was-
easy if it wasn't for 2 weeks ago, where, the homeowner went into this property knowing what they have. Is it, regardless of what's around them, is an office or whatever they're doing necessary? They have a garage, they have a house, and they paid accordingly for it. And, is it necessary of what they're doing? I mean, is what 2 weeks ago want us to ask. Right.
Yeah, that's a question I had, looking at this too. Maybe, Brian, if you could explain why, this is necessary, not for their personal selves, because that's, I don't think relevant, but, necessary to make reasonable use of the property.
Yeah, so one of the things that's come up is the idea of a home office. Now, a lot of people, because of the pandemic and future work cases, being able to utilize their home as also their working space has become a major issue. This is solely to address that issue. Again, as you said, I've provided several cases of case law that support this position for variance based on the condition of the property, the wetlands and the FEMA designated floodlines. But it's also important to note that this application and this request for this variance is in keeping with the neighborhood. It doesn't expand on anything that isn't, as you said, already allowed within the neighborhood. The condition of the lot, again, further justifies the variance just because it is a small setback variance. We're really only requesting 15 feet in total, a reduction of 15 feet total. And as you said, all the neighboring properties are much more developed in their footprint than this one. This is a bit of an older house. They are looking to make some improvements that obviously wouldn't require variance as part of this project. They've lived there since, I believe, 2018. And it's, there are improvements that they want to make, which is allowed under the rules. I think this is a classic case for a hardship. We did do a total prudent and feasibility alternative analysis when we started doing this, so that we were trying to avoid any attempt or need to get a hardship. But based on the factors related to the lot and the existing infrastructure, it wasn't feasible from a perspective of design.
Brian, I think the cases you cited, and I think this board's probably all in agreement that there are hardships that run with the land here. I mean, you have the flood zone, you have the lake, you have the slope behind it. But just because there's a hardship on the lot doesn't mean you can do anything. It's not like a carte blanche because someone has a cliff on their property, they can build a skyscraper. mean, it still has to be a reasonably necessary use, and we're supposed to grant, the minimum variance we can to allow someone to make reasonable use of it. So that's why I had a question regarding how this is necessary. A lot of people have a home office in a bedroom or a basement or, other areas they could use for that, so.
Could you
something
go
like that would be
over
helpful.
the building coverage of what's allowed in that zone versus what is currently on the lot versus what you're proposing?
Yeah, so we're far under the existing building. We're
I did
far
see.
under the existing building coverage, so, basically we're allowed up to 8,700. Currently, we're at a little over 2,000 and we're requesting to go up to 2,579. So we're substantially under the maximum building coverage. We do meet the required minimum lot size. We're not going up above more stories than what's allowed. So other than this, again, 15-foot setback, everything else is compliant on the application. They are,
Brian, can you go back to that schedule you had a minute ago? I'm looking at a plan that says maximum building coverage required or allowed 8,722 square feet plus 4% of excess area. And then it says existing 8,713 square feet. Is that a different schedule on the plan in front of me?
no, I don't know. So this plan is dated 11/26/2024.
This is the Land Tech one with your application.
Yeah, that's,
10/11/2024. Just the one on the website.
is that the survey?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the site development plan.
So you're saying the developed site is going to be smaller than the existing?
No, hold on one second. I'm sorry. I don't know what map you're looking at.
So it's the survey that was associated with it. I believe it does say, so it says required / allowed in that first column. That's the requirement in the zone, and then existing is the maximum that's permitted, I think, on that survey.
Yeah, so this is, I'm sorry, but that's a typo on there. This is the correct one on the site development plan, which you should have site improvements for proposed building addition.
So what's let me find something to write down. What's the existing coverage and what is the proposed coverage?
The existing coverage is, if you can see it on the screen, it's 2,058. And the proposed coverage is 2,579.
And the allowed is 8,713 square feet.
That's correct.
They got plenty of room there.
And that plan with these on it from the server that's in the application file? Or is
Yes,
this in
this is
the plan that just you have?
This is in the application file, correct?
Someone labeled site plan?
Yeah, it's the site plan.
Stormwater site plan. Okay. That makes more sense. Okay.
So just looking at Alex Snyder, looking at the, that table, it seems like the other alternative that could be done that would not require a variance would be to build up. The maximum height is 40, you're at 26, that would be 14 feet, which should allow for an additional story.
So it'd be half a story.
Isn't 14 feet more than a story? Has
Yeah,
14
10
feet?
10 feet is your standard and.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking, yes, so, potentially, I'd have to talk to, like, the architect, about why that wasn't a feasible approach to doing it. I know there was some questions about that. This was the most straightforward, approach to basically developing it in a manner that is consistent with the property and also the flood limit and the wetlands.
But it's not the most consistent when, in terms of, because you need a variance.
But so just to be clear, the house is currently a 2-story house,
So you
correct?
can't
Correct.
add-
So you can't add a full,
third
s-
story.
you
You
can
could
only have
add
half a
something above the
story.
garage.
Yes, that's correct.
Or dormers on the roof,
Mhm.
but you can't put a 3-story there. You can
Correct,
only do
that's-
2.5.
Separate from the 40 feet.
Yeah, it's only 2.5 stories.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think the question is, why isn't over the garage? I think there's 2 questions. One is this reasonably necessary to make use of it? And if it's reasonably necessary to make use of it, why just this spot? I think the easier question is the circumstances that run with the land here, the flood zone and the slope and all the stuff there.
No, there certainly are conditions. Now, Alex Snyder again, sorry. You referenced this was going to be the first of maybe other variances that you were going to be coming for, I thought, when you started the discussion.
Not variances, just internal improvements that wouldn't require, just building permit type of zoning permit,
But
building
not-
permit.
Okay. Do you have, and I'm sorry if I missed it, a schematic, a rendering of what this is going to look like?
Yes, I do.
That was in the application. I mean, plenty of people put an office above their garage.
Yep.
And then you're outside and needing a variance.
So if you could see this is basically, so that's a den. Again, they're short on living space. This would be the first floor, obviously, that would go over the existing patio, and then this is, again, the office space.
Top. I see.
So
Okay,
there
that's-
are some building code issues. Unfortunately, the architect wasn't able to be here tonight. There are some building code issues and about why this was as means of egress. If you look at the layout of the house, there's a bedroom here, and to go through that bedroom, I believe there was an issue with that.
Well, we can't really ask him questions if he's not here.
Let me see, I'm trying to get him on the line right now. He's having trouble logging in. My apologies.
I believe you're looking for a means of egress can't go through a bedroom.
That's correct. I'm just trying to send him the link. I had the link for the January 6th meeting for some reason.
If you go to the New Canaan website, you can click on the
Yeah.
town calendar for tonight and then just click on ZBA and the link's right there.
Sorry, he's joining
So
us.
this- Shows the egress through the dining room.
Upstairs.
Oh, so next.
No, I think they were saying that if they go on the other side.
They go over the garage.
That'll be the family room. And this is,
Oh,
no,
I
it's
see,
not.
yeah.
No, and this, he went to the second floor.
This is the second floor. Because the first floor of the garage is the garage.
The architect is joining. I'm sorry about that.
That's the existing ground floor plan you're looking at, right?
Also go on top of that,
Yeah,
you're saying?
let's, yeah. And you'd be going through a bedroom.
Yeah, that, here's the, this is in their plan.
Yeah, it's hard to say the no.
Pass it down to Alex.
Want to just reference what page
It's the, it's kind of hard to find it. It was in the first thing listed on their website, listed as, 241126 Logan Road variance. If you scroll down on that, that's where they have the,
So Jason Lind, who is the architect, is on to answer those questions about just the background about why the egress issue and building over the garage wasn't a viable option for this particular project.
Hey guys, how you doing? So we did look at trying to go over the garage. The grade is significantly different on that side. And that is the current family room of the space. It would be quite challenging to get that plan to work and also just architecturally integrate that with the house. And the hope was that because that patio was on the opposite side, that would be a much more viable location to locate the small extension.
so the proposal, Luke Tashin speaking, so the proposal is they have an existing family room on the left and you want to build a new den room on the right.
Correct. Yeah, the existing family room is kind of a sort of an awkward L shape from a previous, before they had owned the house. So it would be an additional room, more of a kind of kind of a sunroom den type of scenario with more glass.
Could you speak to if there were any code challenges with placing the office on the wing where the, on the opposite side where the garage and the bedroom are?
Family room is.
Were there code issues? I think Mr. Carey alluded to that.
I don't know if we have egress issues based on the function of the room. We would be going through one room to another room, and if we had extended past, we would have created a deeper garage scenario. I would say possible to achieve via code, but certainly creates some logistical headaches extending the foundation, infilling part of the garage, or I guess realizing that we would end up with a super deep garage or a 4-car garage.
So Luke Tashin speaking, so you were saying even further past the existing family room you'd go? You wouldn't just replace the family room with the den room?
They wouldn't want to do that just because they would be trading space for space, and it'd be a little bit wasteful. And just from an expenditure standpoint, you're kind of building a different room in the same place. They're looking for kind of a indoor-outdoor type of feeling of a space. And then the benefit above this space was allowing to have this small office function on the second floor. That would not work code-wise on the second floor. Maybe that's what Brian alluded to because there are bedrooms up there. Or we would have to take one bedroom and extend it. This was really servicing the master. So on the north side here, you would have 2 bedrooms, but the master is actually on the plan south.
Is it possible without a variance, this is what you were saying a moment ago, to, instead of putting it on the right side of the house, on the left side of the house?
Yeah, I think that's what we're referring to. So if you're facing the front door, we're talking about propose on the right versus the option to put it on the left, correct?
So what's preventing it from going on the left?
What I was trying to mention, the significant grade change. So you have a existing driveway going into a sort of a basement garage, right? The garage is at the basement level. And the existing family room is above that, and that's a gabled roof. The adjacent rooms on the second floor are bedrooms, so you would not be able to access that room because you'd have to travel through the bedrooms. So it just becomes a lot more complicated.
Above the garage, yeah.
From
He's got the family.
So you're saying you can't make the garage longer on the left of the house? Because you would then have the garage with the cars on the first floor or the ground level, then the floor level above that, you would have this den, which is okay. But then on the third floor where you would want the office, you can't put, that they wouldn't be, there'd only be ingress and egress through the bedrooms, which is not permitted.
Through the bedrooms, unless it was an office just serving, one of the smaller bedrooms, which wouldn't really make sense. Yeah, so you kind of end up with a family room with the den room attached to it.
So are you allowed to have an office off a bedroom, or does the office have to be off a hallway?
No, we can do an alcove office. That's what we were proposing off of the master. It just wouldn't work for this house because it would be through one of the children's bedrooms,
Well, the fact that they decide to have their children in one room and themselves in another room, I don't think that's like a hardship under the zoning.
Would they be able to expand it without going in the setback though?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think the hard thing here is that this house was set where it was set, right, slammed into the corner of the lot. It's a quite large lot. Where it was positioned is just very challenging. So expanding it in a means that is actually functional from the plan standpoint and makes sense architecturally and structurally, this extension really wants to go on the right side, but we just happen to be very pinched with the property line and at the setback line. Putting on the opposite side, I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but putting on the opposite side, which we looked at right away, has so many challenges to it due to the grade and the garage. And
Well, the grade is flat there. That's where they turn their cars around.
yeah, no, it'd be an extra story tall. At the patio, we're just going on an existing frost wall. We would be just restructuring that frost wall. So you're at elevation 414.6 and the driveway's down at 409. I think the hardship here is just that the existing house happens to be set in this corner, and the lot is such an awkward, strange shape, responding obviously to the pond, that it isn't a normal lot at normal condition where we would have it more space to work with.
But wasn't the house angled like that so that it could face the pond? I mean, they could have kitty cornered it. They could have twisted a little bit so it's more parallel to the lot line, but then it wouldn't have the view of the pond.
Yeah, I mean,
It cuts both ways. It's not straight with that setback line.
yeah, no, I hear you. I think it would have been nice if they had slid it up a bit for us.
The other issue too with digging out a foundation adjacent to the garage is that will be considered more impactful from a wetland standpoint. So we would get comments rather than going over an existing area, which would be existing disturbance. We would be adding new disturbance, which would make it more challenging in seeking permits from wetlands.
But that'd be outside the 50-foot wetland setback. Why would they have a problem with working outside?
No,
the
that's not. It still would require a permit from them though.
Yeah, the overcut's going to cut into that line. And I think you're at 409. It looks like the water is at 406. Well, we might be below the water table trying to structure that foundation, which starts to get pretty sketchy.
So you're saying because you dig below the water table, like what makes it their jurisdiction if you're outside the wetland setback?
So I can speak to that. It's a function of where construction impacts are. So even though a structure itself is not in the wetlands review area, if to physically build the structure, you're going to be within the review area, it requires a permit.
Yeah, and I'm not.
You're just
saying
saying
that would
because
happen.
the equipment is going to be there or.
Correct. And, part of the jurisdiction of wetlands is to make sure that the construction itself isn't going to damage the wetlands.
I mean, but I think they could operate outside the wetlands here.
For safety
So-
of the foundation walls as well, so.
I have had brief conversations with Kathleen Holland regarding feasible and prudent alternatives. Again, we weren't trying to seek a variance from the beginning. We went through planning stage. Obviously, trying to get a variance is always the last direction we want to take in a project, especially when it's, you know, this small. It's just we've gotten to this point because it's really not feasible based on site constraints to really do it in another location that would be less impactful. And again, the reason why we're seeking or a reason for the justification for the hardship is because of the presence of wetlands and the FEMA regulated zone, but also the prior the configuration of the lot and the way the house was set on the lot, which was not something that was created by our clients. It was done prior to them purchasing the house. So obviously there's case law regarding that it wasn't a self-created hardship, something that they did that made it a hardship. They purchased the property like that. So we're just looking for relief.
This is Alex Snyder. So is there, in terms of thinking about the minimum, you know, there was the statement that a home office is necessary based on the pandemic and people working from home. That is obviously turned the other direction. But what I'm looking at more closely here is, why does this need to be so large? Why does the entire area of the patio need to be done? When I look at, let's say, what the current office is, it's not nearly that large. So if we're trying to minimize the impact in connection with the variance, why are we, would we approve something that's 18 feet wide?
Well, the footprint has the current chimney. You can see it here where it says stone patio. Sorry, I can't see my cursor, but so the access point to get to the patio, which would theoretically be the new den, there would be a door on each side of the chimney. So just to make those doors work, we kind of have to use most of the patio. And then you know, our proposal was to keep the roof quite modest in the exact character of the house. So it's a pretty low ridge with a shed dormer. So the usable space in that upper area is quite limited because of the roof height. So it might look fairly big in this plan, but it is a fairly modest proposal just from those two
But the
factors.
necessity you said was the office space on the first floor, not so much the necessity being the addition on the second floor.
No, the den's on the first floor. I
Yeah, the
thought.
office is on the second floor.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, correct.
So this office, when you look at it, has a giant extended master closet in it. You're saying that's just put there because that space is otherwise unusable because of the roof pitch, or what's driving that?
No, they asked for a larger closet area, so it's just that corner, so it takes up part of that space.
And that's a big portion of your office. It's 10.5 feet by 6
Yeah, this
inches
these
is
views
extending a master
actually-
closet.
Yeah, I mean, the inside of that's not that big, but these views were from a slightly older scheme. I think this footprint was a little bit larger, so these views feel a little bit bigger. They show the general spirit of the interior. But this is showing a couple feet past the patio, so we revised the submission to make it as compact as possible. So it made sense to kind of just match the footprint of the patio, because shrinking it down, you'd be shaving off, you know, only a foot or so on each side, which we could certainly do. But using that same frost wall line sort of minimized, again, the amount of ground disturbance.
Why would it only shave it down a foot or two? I mean, if you don't need the
I think the
den room,
chimney-
if you have a family room, I don't think you need both of those. Or are you saying you need both of those? Because
Oh,
that
if you
seems
go
to be
back to
what's
the
driving the
views.
space.
Yeah, could you go back to the views for a second? That chimney, which we just put another gas fireplace on the back side of it to kind of give it a purpose. We really can't move that, so the doors are on either side of it, so that really kind of sets the perimeter. And then to match the
So-
roof, the ridge is aligned with the existing ridge, which kind of keeps it symmetrical.
The windows on the front in your rendering of this, those 3 windows in the addition, the first window, that's a window into this new master closet or what? That's not into the office, is it?
This is the first floor.
That's the first
Oh,
floor.
this is the second floor. To go to the second floor. So one of the windows on the front of the house is for the master closet.
Correct, yeah, just trying to keep the character looking balanced and aesthetically right, so, yeah, there's the closet basically just takes over one window bay.
So this is looking back towards what would be the master bedroom.
Yeah, exactly, so, where that fireplace is, that there's a brick chimney underneath that.
Got it. And then that's the door from the bedroom to the office to just to the left of that.
Correct, yep.
Yeah, I mean, we just tried to utilize the existing patio coverage, that's out there right now.
And on the back off of this, is there gonna be a porch? Is that what you're rendering showing?
No, that's
No,
an
this is still
existing wooden
existing.
deck. And then you can't really put anything out in here, because of the existing septic.
That's what I was wondering.
So this is the septic. It's got a pump chamber, because it pumps it up. It's a pump system. And then that deck is existing.
Jessica, I'd be interested in, any comments you have, on Zooms, you're kind of cut out here a little bit.
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't have any issue with the hardship of the land. I do think while we've been made aware of certain situations to consider, the law that we're thinking about is several years old, and this is in line with things we have been approving for several years now. As far as when you look at the challenges they're dealing with the lot, and that this is essentially a pretty, to the extent they could create what they're trying to do with as much coverage as is available for them on this lot size. They're trying to do this in a manner that really doesn't impede with every other issue that they're trying to deal with and work around, including the flood zone and everything else. So frankly, I think we have to look also back to how we've handled things. And I don't have too much issue with it. I think they have a lot of problems otherwise.
I think I'm generally the same view as you. I don't believe you could put it on the southerly side, because I think then it would run into the side setback. I don't know why that hasn't come up, but it seems to me the northerly side is potentially off the table. Without needing a variance, so then it becomes, is this reasonably necessary? And they're so far
That's the
under,
question. Yep.
they're so far under the lot coverage. I mean, they're gonna be at like about a quarter of the allowed lot coverage. So we're not talking an enormous house here for the neighborhood. And I think this is consistent. If they're asking for something over the lot coverage, I think I don't see how I could say okay on this. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, I
That'd be
agree,
much better,
Luke.
but they're looking at a quarter of the lot coverage.
That's what really hangs me up, right? That they have so many challenges and that they're so under coverage right now that I don't think someone would go into. I agree that we all want to say you should do some due diligence when you buy a lot, but at the same point in time, when you have this much coverage available, I don't know that you obviously buy it knowing that there's water and flood zone restrictions and things like that. But I don't think you believe that you're going to have your hands tied when you're that under coverage.
Could, this is Alex, the satellite map be brought up again? I just want to see the line as to who, the property that's really closest at that line where they're going to be going over the setback. So right there.
One's vacant.
Which one is vacant? The one that's all lake?
So I don't even think this is a building lot, tell you the truth.
Okay,
Oh,
so if
you
you
know
could
what?
just zoom in slowly.
It's part
for
of
me.
this property.
Yeah, they're the same owner, right, is that
Yeah,
property?
this is the same owner as this. I don't think this is a building lot based on wetlands and then setbacks. You'd have to put a building in here, which I don't think's feasible. For several reasons, one of them being wetlands, the other being septic. So this is the closest neighbor.
And
And driving back there, it's so secluded. I mean, you're off the main road to begin with anyway. It's not even on.
No, that's helpful,
Yeah,
even though it's not directly the hardship issue.
but it could be a mitigant to this be, I mean, is this absolutely necessary? No.
I don't
But,
wanna say no, cause
but-
it forecloses it, but I could see. it's a-
but
it's a
there's
tough one.
mitigants to, one big mitigant is the coverage, the seclusion of the property, the hardship of, between the septic, as we talked about, the flood and, in the wetlands, there's just a lot of mitigants. So, and it's 520 feet in a very secluded area in town. I'm not bothered by it.
I think the next question I have is, I think the fact that there's the woods now between the proposed addition and the lot line is kind of a factor that cuts in your favor. What's gonna go between there? Cause I think, if you put a lawn in there now all of a sudden there's nothing between that addition and the neighbor's property, I think that would not be looked at favorably.
Yeah, so that's just gonna stay the way it is as a landscaped area. It's old growth trees. There's a 20-foot oak here and 12-foot hemlock. So there's no plan to remove or do anything in that area for the landscape. Most of the woods are off the property, so they wouldn't even have the benefit of changing it to lawn if they wanted to.
Yeah, and they haven't
Chad?
asked, they like the hemlocks as they are.
Chad, do you have any?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask from the GIS map, if you could turn on the topo layer. I do see the slope contours on here. I see the drop off, but it may be helpful just looking at it from the satellite GIS imagery.
So here's the topo. This is a much lower, this retaining wall, I mean, you can see here with steps down, so this is much lower.
Also on the GIS, those are 5-foot contours, whereas I
Yeah.
think on the applicant's plan, they were 1 or 2-foot contours, so there will be less lines on this.
Cynthia Dell speaking, having walked the property and walked all the way around the house, it really is quite challenging. I would have to say there's no even ground around it at all, even getting to where you might be concerned where I think, the woods on the other side, if they were to take any trees down or put down grass or anything, I don't see where this would have any impact on a neighbor looking at it at all because of the
Agreed.
space between the lots. I don't have a problem with what they're asking. I think when you look at the total coverage, it's so much lower than what they can do. Looking at the other homes in the area, they're quite substantial. In looking at this is a modest, I think, home. And, to get up to the backyard, it was, I think,
It's a challenge.
4 or 5
Right.
steps. And then from there, it wasn't even ground as you kind of tried to walk around to take a look at where the patio was. I don't have an issue
I
with
couldn't,
granting the variance.
Yeah,
I'm in agreement with everything.
Yeah.
Cynthia said. I think it's an extremely challenging lot. It's challenging they get between the floods and the slope.
right. Those are all mitigants.
Yeah, there's
to-
nothing nearby. Whether or not it's reasonably necessary, I kind of struggle with.
Yep, but
But I think the
there's-
fact they're so far under lot coverage
Mhm.
and all the other houses around it are so much bigger than it, that it's hard to say this isn't reasonable.
Yep. Mhm.
I mean, Jessica, anything else?
No, I'm in agree with Cynthia and I'm in agreement with what the direction everybody seems to be heading in. Yeah.
Okay, if the applicant has anything else to say, you can say it. Otherwise, we'll ask if there's anyone here for or against. I guess we received one letter in support of it. I don't believe we received anything against it. And then, assuming there's no one for or against it, then, we'll close and move into business session and vote on it. It takes a vote of, 4 members of the board to grant it. Are you still an alternate?
No.
No, okay, so we have 5. We have 5 members, so we don't have to seat anybody for it. So you need 4 of the 5 members. And that's how, I guess, I proceeded. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I don't, except thank you for your time.
Okay. Is there anyone here for or against it?
I'd support granting the
That's,
variance.
okay, so no one's for or against. We're gonna move into business session. I think you've heard Jessica, Cynthia, and my view is, I don't think it's an easy one. I do think it's important that we think about it being legally necessary. But for the reasons I said, I feel we've made the cut.
Yep, I agree. Don't need to repeat everything.
Jessica, anything else?
No, I mean, I think Luke, you may be best positioned to try to make a motion.
I was gonna leave it to Cynthia because I think she said it so well. But I
She
guess I'll
did,
do it.
didn't she?
You get second.
So, I'd move to grant the variance. Well, first, I'd like to note that the plan is an error and we're only granting a variance for 2,579 square feet. Not the one that had the 8,000 square foot note on it. And then I'd move that we allow the variance as requested on the grounds that the lot is extremely unique. It's almost all flood zone or wetlands on one side. On the other side, it's an extremely steep slope. The septic system is packed into that steep slope. On another side of it is a lot that apparently cannot be developed based on what's been presented to us. No one's presented anything against it, and it seems that there's a hardship on account of those uniqueness for the topography and the wetlands and the positioning of the house, and that this is reasonably necessary use of the property because when you compare it to all the houses around it being significantly larger than it, and it being so far under the allowed area, I mean, it's about a quarter of what's allowed in the area for lot coverage. So that's my motion.
I second the motion.
Okay.
I guess we'll vote. Jessica, do you want to vote first?
Sure. Garden in favor?
Dull in favor?
Tash in favor?
Carry 2 in favor.
Snyder in favor.
Book in favor.
I don't believe you were seated for this one, so you can't vote. Okay. But that's fine. You got it because it was unanimous. You even got an alternate. So it's a clean.
You
sweep.
got cushion.
Yeah, you got a little cushion here, so it's congratulations on it. Thank you and good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Has everyone read?
Yeah.
The minutes?
Yes.
Anyone have any changes or comments? No?
No.
Someone move to allow them?
Yep. Rich carry 2, I move to allow the minutes in the record.
Snyder
Garden,
second.
oh, I'll third.
We'll start voting then. Jessica,
Garden in
Favor.
favor.
Dull in favor?
Tashton.
Carry 2 in favor.
Snyder in favor.
Book in favor.
Okay, so, any other matters before us? We have an extra safety vest. Does anyone not have the safety vest?
I got one.
Chad, do you? They good, like if you're picking up trash or something
Yeah.
too?
Yeah.
Or deer.
Going
hunting.
jogging,
We're running
They
at night,
great.
yeah.
They really-
Show.
they're really nice
Snow
ones.
shoveling.
Yeah, snow shoveling. So, okay, and has everyone got an ID card?
Yes.
If you want an ID card, Chad, they,
I don't think I ever got them.
Been printing them, we were supposed
to do
them like 6 months ago, never did, so.
okay, well, at some point you're getting an ID card. But at least if you wear the vest, you look kind of legit.
Yeah. Very legit.
Okay,
Scary for the best.
so I'd move to adjourn the meeting if there's nothing else. It's 8 PM exactly. Anyone want to second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Bye.